The clearing reeked of blood and burnt ozone. Sergeant Lyra Voss kept her rifle trained on the massive creature before her, though she knew the weapon would do little against Varith's armored hide. The Kethril predator stood nearly 3 meters tall, her 6 limbs rippling with corded muscle beneath obsidian scales that seemed to drink in the moonlight. But it wasn't aggression in those amber eyes. It was desperation. Behind Varith, 3 small forms huddled together, mewling softly. Cubs. No larger than human children, their scales still soft and gray, not yet hardened into the killing tools they would become. "You understand me?" Lyra asked, her translator implant working overtime to parse the growls and clicks emanating from the creature. Varith's head dipped once. A nod. The gesture was oddly human. "The hunters come." Varith's voice emerged through the translator, stilted and harsh. "My kind. We are prey now. The collective hunts us for sport, for trophies. I must lead them away." She moved aside, revealing her cubs fully. "But they cannot run fast enough. Cannot fight. We'll die." Lyra's jaw tightened. The collective. She knew them well. A federation of species who believed themselves superior, who treated others as resources or entertainment. Her own unit had barely survived their last encounter with collective raiders. Why come to me? Humans are different. Varith's eyes locked onto hers. You fight when you should flee. Protect when you should abandon. The galaxy calls you foolish, but I have watched you, human. You are stubborn. Despite the situation, Lyra almost smiled. That's one word for it. Varith stepped forward and Lyra's finger tensed on the trigger, but the predator merely lowered her head. 1 solar cycle. I will return when the danger passes, or I will not return at all. And if you don't, then they are yours. Before Lyra could respond, Varith was gone, disappearing into the forest with impossible speed. The 3 cubs stared up at her with eyes too intelligent for their apparent age, and Lyra Voss realized she'd just become a mother to alien predators. The first week was chaos. The cubs, she named them Ash, Ember, and Scar for the markings on their hides, didn't understand her language, her gestures, or why this weak, small creature expected them to follow rules. They fought constantly, destroying her quarters and attempting to establish dominance through violence, as their kind naturally did. Lyra had raised soldiers. She knew discipline. When they fought, she separated them. When they refused to listen, she withheld food, not to starve them, but to teach cause and effect. When they succeeded in even the smallest task, she rewarded them. Humans had spent millennia domesticating wolves into dogs, and while these weren't wolves, the principle remained: consistency, patience, and clear boundaries. But she gave them something else too. Something the Kethril probably didn't have words for. She gave them love. At night, when they huddled together, instinct telling them that isolation meant death, she sat with them. She hummed old songs her grandmother had taught her. She checked their scales for injuries, applied salve when they scraped themselves, and told them stories about Earth, about snow and oceans and the first humans who looked up at the stars and decided to reach for them. Slowly, something changed. Ash, the largest, stopped challenging her authority and began mimicking her movements, the way she stood, the way she surveyed her surroundings with careful deliberation. Ember, quick and clever, learned to understand her words, responding to commands with increasing accuracy. And Scar, the smallest but most observant, began bringing her things, small animals he'd caught, arranging them neatly at her feet like offerings. Lyra taught them to hunt, not as mindless predators but as soldiers. Strategy, patience, working as a unit. She ran drills with them, teaching hand signals and tactical positioning. She showed them that true strength wasn't just claws and teeth. It was knowing when to strike and when to wait. She taught them to be more than predators. She taught them to be warriors. 3 months later, Varith returned. The predator materialized at the edge of the compound at dawn, her scales now crossed with fresh scars, evidence of the battles she'd survived. Lyra was already awake, running her morning patrol with the cubs, now nearly half their mother's size, moving in perfect formation around her. Varith's approach triggered their instincts. They moved to intercept, positioning themselves between the potential threat and their sergeant. Protective, tactical. Varith stopped, her 4 eyes widening in something that might have been shock. "Stand down," Lyra commanded, and immediately all 3 cubs relaxed, though they remained alert. She walked forward, the cubs flanking her like an honor guard. Varith, she acknowledged. The Kethral predator couldn't seem to process what she was seeing. Her cubs, her children, moved with purpose and discipline. When she chirped their native call, they responded but didn't break formation, didn't revert to their base nature. What have you done? Varith asked, and for the first time Lyra heard emotion in that translated voice. Wonder, fear, awe. I raised them, Lyra said simply. I gave them structure, purpose, and something to believe in beyond survival. Varith approached slowly and her cubs finally broke formation, moving toward their mother. But even in their reunion, Lyra saw the difference. They didn't tackle Varith in a frenzy. They approached with control, with awareness of their strength and surroundings. They touched their mother gently, reverently. The collective still hunts my people, Varith said, watching her children with something like reverence. We scatter, we hide, we die slowly. Then stop scattering, Lyra said. The collective thinks they're superior because they're organized, because they work together. But humans learned something a long time ago. Family isn't just blood. It's who stands beside you when the darkness comes. She met Varith's eyes. We teach your people what I taught them. We build something the collective won't expect. Not just predators. Not just survivors. An army? Varith asked. A family, Lyra corrected. One that fights for each other. Varith looked at her cubs, at Ash standing tall, at Ember's intelligent gaze, at Scar's quiet confidence. She saw what they'd become under human care, not weakened, enhanced. Their natural abilities sharpened by discipline, their ferocity tempered with purpose. Humans are foolish, Varith said slowly, to take in predators, to teach them to be more dangerous. Lyra smiled, a warrior's smile. Yeah, we get that a lot. Varith's mandibles spread in what might have been a Kethral smile. Then perhaps we should all be fools together. As the sun rose over the compound, Sergeant Lyra Voss stood with an alien predator and 3 cubs who'd become something the galaxy had never seen. Kethral warriors with human hearts. The collective would learn what the universe kept learning. Again and again, never underestimate humanity's stubborn refusal to abandon those who needed them, and never, ever underestimate what humans could build when they decided someone was worth fighting for.